In adventure riding around the tropical country of Laos, we encountered waterways, big and small, pretty much every day. Oftentimes you would cross these waterways on a bridge, but there did come occasions where only a boat would do. We arrived at the small city of Nakasong on the Mekong River in the southwest portion of Laos. From here we planned to take a boat ride over to the island of Don Det. Nakasong was a bustling area and by far the busiest river port we had encountered in our 4 weeks of travel around the country. It wasn't exactly clear what we needed to do to catch the proper boat to get over to Don Det. So wandered around a little bit for a place that looked likely, and as luck would have it, ended up heading down to the beach right as the proper boat was pulling up, the one that was going to give us a ride. This area of Laos is known as the 4,000 Islands. It's a location where the Mekong River is splintered into numerous channels as it makes its way around some rocky and rugged terrain. At the top of this map you can see the port town of Nakasong, where we're about to take off on a boat ride. South of there then is the island of Don Det, where we plan to spend a couple days and relax, look around, and have some fun. This is the commonly seen configuration where a deck has been built across 2 or 3 longboats to create this vessel that is capable of transporting lots of cargo, and in this case, multiple motorcycles. Once we got all of our motorcycles loaded onto the boat, we headed out from Nakasong for about a 15-minute boat ride over to Don Det. Interesting how the driver uses a foot on the tiller of the outboard motor to move it back and forth and steer the boat. These larger deck boats also have a steering system using a rudder in addition to moving the motor's direction. Checked out that type of system on another boat and found this cylinder on the steering shaft pulls some ropes that go back and forth through pulleys, back to a couple more pulleys, and down to a rudder. A bit of a Rube Goldberg looking thing, but it seems to be very functional. "4,000 Islands" is a very popular and heavily visited part of Laos. Lots of options for taking tours up and down the river. You see a fair number of these smaller boats as well. Maybe they perform as a taxi or simply someone's family car. And this is an awfully common scene since every supply used out on the islands has to come across on boats. This is such a busy area on the Mekong. There's basically no time during the day when you can look out there and not see a boat of some sort going by. So we made our way across that portion of the Mekong Channel, pulled up into the docks at Don Det. So glad we made it out to the 4,000 Islands. Very interesting visit. In fact, I've got a whole nother video that focuses just on our time here, so be sure to check that one out. Some of our boat trips in Laos were expected and planned in advance. By contrast, some others were completely unanticipated, resulting in some extra adventure for the day.
Oops. We're on the road.
So it must be a ferry. It must be like a ferry that goes back and forth over there.
This fucking thing doesn't even show a lake here.
But are you sure we took the right left hand?
Well, I mean...
On my paper map there was a couple of roads going up left.
Two paper maps and 2 separate GPS navigation systems put us on this road that maybe still exists today, but it's at the bottom of a lake. Later that evening, when I connected to some Wi-Fi, I was able to download this satellite imagery that gave the bigger picture of what we had unexpectedly encountered today. As it turned out, earlier in the day and several miles up the road before we hit that dead end, we passed this little outpost. We decided to pull in here and check it out. Maybe we'd find something to eat. It wasn't really clear what was going on here, and the lack of a common language to speak to anybody didn't help clarify things.
Sabadi, is this a restaurant? Eat? Eat? Food? Food?
It didn't become apparent until later when we returned to this area after hitting the dead end in the road that this was indeed a ferry station, and that boat was heading out shortly and was the last one for the day. After we had returned here and started to get a sense of what was going on, we decided to rest for a bit, get something to eat and drink, and regroup, trying to figure out what it was we were going to do next. After we had kicked back there for a while, we saw this ferry boat pull in full of passengers. It had undoubtedly passed the other boat that had departed earlier, the one that was the last scheduled ferry of the day. We had no indication from where this boat had just come, but clearly the people had been off doing some shopping. We figured out that some of them had left motorcycles here at the ferry dock, while others had carried their motorcycles with them. After maybe 20 or more people got off the boat, we noticed that they had 7 or 8 of the small motorcycles that they had carried with them. Soon we were able to figure out we had about 2 options. One was to turn around and go back on the road to some small town we came through earlier and find a place to sleep for the night, come back here in the morning and try to get on one of the scheduled ferry rides that are packed with people. The other option was to pay them a rather premium price to take us on a private charter run that afternoon. All things considered, we decided to pay the money and get on our way. To get our larger bikes on this boat, we had to take all the mirrors off, but we were able to squeeze them in and get them tied down. Compared with the tightly packed load we just saw come in, we had a very spacious and luxurious ride ahead of us. After our captain was able to grab himself some quick dinner, it was time to shove off and head down the lake. As we were pulling away from the ferry dock, we passed this large barge that was tied up on the other bank. Turns out earlier in the day we had actually seen this and were confused over what it was we were looking at.
Is it a dam?
Huh?
It's a dam? Or it's a boat?
I can't tell.
I think it's 2 long boats.
It's not. I don't think it's a dam.
There must be something. It's not.
Maybe it is a dam and a boat, because that
Yeah,
tower looks a little...
Yeah, there must be a power station somewhere.
Am I the only one getting a little hungry?
Yes.
Okay. Well.
No.
I'll just wait.
You see a restaurant anywhere?
I'm looking right here. That does kind of look like a dam structure. Yeah. But I don't see a restaurant there. That would be too cool, man.
So off we went on our boat ride. We didn't really know where we were going. We didn't know how long it would take to get there. But we did grab some more beer and some snacks, settled in to enjoy the ride. After just a few miles of travel, we noted the location where the road dead-ended at the water, the very spot where we first figured out we have a bit of a lake issue. This really was a very cool ride, buzzing along there and looking at this thick jungle all along the shores. We also noticed a number of homes where people were getting to live lakeside. It was amusing to look up and notice the captain was kicking back in his chair and steering with his feet. He's probably made this run so many times he could do it in his sleep. After chugging along for maybe an hour and a half, we finally reached the other end of the lake. This was certainly a more developed ferry station than the one we had left earlier. We later found out that it's an important facility for supporting the considerable mining operations that go on in this area. While the unanticipated lake encounter and the subsequent boat trip put us behind schedule, we certainly had a great time, and it all just added to the adventure. Another of our planned and well-anticipated boat rides was that in exploring the Konglor Cave. This is another popular and well-attended attraction for people visiting Laos. There were a number of nice guest houses in the area, so visitors can spend the night and have more time to explore the cave. My room even had a back deck on it that overlooked the fields where the workers were digging all day long getting ready to plant tobacco. Here's another one of those random encounters that can turn out to be so enjoyable. We met this Polish couple that retired, sold all their possessions, and started traveling the world on this motorcycle. They had been doing that for 5 years. We made our way down to where the cave tour begins, found ourselves in this beautiful jungle area beside the river. My attention was immediately grabbed by another big adventure bike parked in the area. This one had an Alaska license plate, and I immediately had a hunch who it might be. That hunch was soon confirmed when we looked at the bike up close. It was 1.5 years earlier that some of us were riding motorcycles up in Alaska, and we were hoping to catch up with a couple women from New Zealand who were starting an around-the-world motorcycle trip. We just missed them, and I sort of lost track of them. But now here we are in Laos, and just happened to stumble upon Kathleen Perry's motorcycle, parked along the river while she is in taking the cave tour. We didn't catch up with Kathleen that day, but in another great coincidence, the following day after we had left the area, we happened upon her at one of our stops. We hung out and chatted for a while, but soon Kathleen was back on her continuous around-the-world solo motorcycle trip that had already been 1.5 years by that time. Pretty amazing. Got ourselves all signed up for our cave tour, which included our life vests and headlamps. Then we followed our guide into the mouth of the cave where we would load up into a boat. The cave runs 7 kilometers through a large mountain range, and the structure is just enormous inside. As we made the journey up the river, we did stop a couple times and get out of the boat so we could look around. Here was one of the areas where there's this staircase that took us up, way up. You can see the river down below and get a sense for just how big this space is. I took a number of photographs as we were traveling down the cave, but it was so dark in there away from these lit areas that it was just difficult to get some good photos for you. After completing the 7-kilometer run through the mountain range, we popped back out into the sunlight and then motored along for a few more kilometers until we reached our turnaround point. Finally reached a little dock area where we would get off the boat and could stretch our legs. They had a few things for sale there, some drinks and snacks, but what amused me most was their sale of gasoline in plastic water bottles. After that brief stop, we got back in our boat to make the 7-kilometer return trip back to the starting point. I somehow blew the audio on this video here, but it still gives you a nice sense of the almost ominous feel as we re-entered this gigantic cave structure. Not far inside that opening of the cave was this area of rapids where shallow water ran over a big rocky area. We had to get out of the boat both directions to lighten it up so our guide could get it through. On the way up, he had to run the motor against the current up this rapid area, but now that we were going with the current, he simply pulled the motor out of the water and jumped in to ride it down. He then turned around and came back and picked us up so we could continue the trip out. The Kong Lor cave tour was super interesting and certainly well worth it. I would recommend it to anybody who finds himself in Laos. And when you come out of the cave, you might as well take some time and go for a swim in this lagoon at the river's outfall. Very nice location. There was another area where we knew we wanted to get across the Mekong River, but we weren't exactly sure how we were going to do it. After failing in another attempt, we went after an area where we understood there could be a small ferry boat to take us across. We came upon a rather unassuming looking area that we weren't sure was the right spot, but we thought we'd go down and check it out.
I don't think they've got our boat here, man.
It's on the tree.
Huh?
Coming.
That's not a big one either.
Oh, it's the same.
I guess we could take it one at a time.
Yeah, 2 at a time.
Maybe.
I suppose at that time I must have been feeling a little spoiled after having had those large ferries that took us back and forth to Dom Det.
That was good timing.
I loaded up my bike in the boat along with these local folks and made it across the river. The boat then went back to bring the other two over. Not the finest quality photo, but I was able to use my phone camera cranked up to the 30 power zoom to look all the way across the Mekong. Got to catch the other bikes being loaded. Soon enough, we were all on the other side and we were able to unload the bikes, pay the operator, and get back on our way after another interesting and successful boat ride. Here was another one of those completely unexpected boat encounters. But as with the others, it simply added to the adventure for the day.
Because I don't think the bridge is going to work. Huh.
This one says, is that a ferry?
Well, that looks like a ferry dock right there, doesn't it? And there's a couple poles down here like a ferry, but where's the ferry?
As we sat there pondering how to get across this river, we started to speculate as to what caused that bridge's current condition. An initial guess was it was damaged during the secret war that the U.S. helped wage here at the same time as the Vietnam conflict. But that evening when I found some Wi-Fi, I was able to download the satellite view of the area, and it became apparent that that bridge and the road connecting it was never really completed. We later learned that the bridge was being funded and constructed to support logging operations in the area. Turns out those operations were illegal, so when they got shut down, the bridge construction was simply abandoned. Eventually, the ferry did show up. Turned out to be a pretty nice one, too.
You got it.
Wait, no.
You got
Can
this.
you help me get on board there?
Yeah, just roll on. Just keep going. Just keep going. Keep going. Go ahead. There's 3 boats. A trimaran, or what would that be called? I have no idea. We'll give them something for sure.
Very interesting.
I know, it's pretty cool, huh?
Another one.
This guy's done this before.
That truck looks stuck though. Yeah.
That's the one they backed it up, but yeah.
But this one is stuck, so they can't pass it. That's the problem.
Ah,
He's blocking the.
yeah, he is. Look at this, we're just whipping right into place here. Awesome.
They would ask for.
It wasn't until we reached the other side that we figured out what we were going to have to pay to
Are you?
get the bikes across. Turns out it was $1.85 each.
1, 2, 3, 40, 40?
After a little pantomime business discussion, we were able to pay the operators and get back on our way. This is most definitely the land of water and the land of boats. Felt very fortunate to get to enjoy a number of interesting boat rides as we made our epic adventure ride around the country of Laos.